My name is Mary Magdalene. Have you ever wondered who I truly was? My story is in the accounts written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But through the centuries, my name has been spoken with whispers, misunderstandings, and mysteries. Some have called me a harlot. Others whisper that I was more to Jesus than what was told. But do you know my story? I was a woman consumed by darkness, tormented by 7 demons that ravaged my mind and body. My own people shunned me. I lived in the shadows, unseen, unloved, and unworthy. Then I met him, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. His voice called out to me, and the darkness trembled. With a single word he cast out the demons, and suddenly I was free. From that moment on I followed him. I walked by his side and listened to his words. His presence changed everything. The more I listened, the more I understood. He spoke of a kingdom unlike any I had ever known, where the last would be first and the weary would find rest. I saw him touch lepers, unafraid of their affliction. I saw him calm storms with just a word. I saw the hungry fed, not just with bread but with truth that filled the soul. He taught me that love was not found in power or riches, but in serving others, in lifting up the weak, in forgiving, even when it hurt. I walked with him through villages and cities, through dusty roads and crowded streets. I watched as the Pharisees whispered, as they plotted, as their eyes burned with envy and fear. I witnessed miracles, the blind seeing, the lame walking, the dead rising. I saw him welcome the broken, the sinners, the forgotten. And then came the night. The air was thick with tension, heavier than the weight of any conversation. We sat around the table, the bread and wine before us, but it felt like the room had been overshadowed by a storm. His voice, though gentle, trembled with a sadness I had never known in him. "One of you will betray me." The words cut through the stillness, and for a moment everything in the room stilled. I felt a shiver of disbelief ripple through me. Betrayal. How could it be? We were his closest companions, his friends. But there was no denying the truth in his eyes. The whispers began to stir. "Is it me? Is it you?" Each of us asking, but none daring to look at one another for too long. The tension thickened as we rose from the table, and he led us out into the garden. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves. The moonlight cast long shadows across the path. I could feel my heart racing, knowing that something terrible was about to unfold. The garden was quiet, save for the rustle of leaves in the cool night breeze. The air felt thick, heavy with something unspoken, as though the earth itself knew what was about to happen. We were there, all of us trying to stay close to him, trying to stay calm. But there was no denying the weight of the moment. Something was about to shift. Something dark and irreversible. We had followed him here, each of us sensing the storm that loomed. The air was thick with unspoken fears, and even the moon seemed dim, as if it too understood what was about to unfold. Jesus had been praying, his voice soft but urgent, a plea for strength, for the will of the Father to be done. But as he rose from the ground, I saw it, the soldiers approaching through the shadows. At first I thought it was a dream, a nightmare creeping from the shadows. But no, it was real. They came in a group, with torches burning bright in the darkness. Their boots thudded on the earth, each step growing louder, faster. The air crackled with the tension, and I could hear the pounding of my own heart. My breath caught in my throat as I turned to look at him. His eyes, full of sorrow and resolve, met mine, but there was no fear in him. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, fear gripping me. The silence shattered as they came closer, their lanterns swinging, their footsteps heavy in the quiet. Judas Iscariot was with them, his steps slow, deliberate. Everybody's jaw dropped at seeing him. Was he the betrayer Jesus talked about? My eyes caught his for a moment, and I could hardly believe it. He went straight to Jesus and kissed him. That was the signal to betray him. He looked troubled, but there was no turning back. This was the moment he had chosen. And then came Peter's sword. Happened so quickly, too quickly to stop. I saw his hand move before I even realized what was happening. The sword flashed in the moonlight, a single swift motion, driven by something I couldn't understand. His anger, his fear, his love for Jesus, they all collided in that instant. The blade struck one of the soldiers. The sound of metal on flesh echoed in the stillness of the garden. A sharp, cutting sound, a sound that seemed to hang in the air long after it had passed. The soldier's ear fell to the ground with a dull thud, and the man cried out in pain, clutching his head. For a moment everything stood still. The soldiers froze, their hands hovering over their weapons. We stood there, breathless, caught in the tension. But in that instant, the world seemed to pause, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. And then Jesus moved. His voice, calm but firm, cut through the chaos. "Put your sword away." Peter, still holding the hilt of his sword, looked at Jesus, confusion and disbelief in his eyes. But Jesus didn't flinch, didn't waver. He stepped forward, his presence commanding, his gaze unshaken. With a single deliberate motion, he reached out and touched the soldier's wounded ear. In the stillness of the garden, the sound of the healing was like a whisper of grace. The ear was restored. What had been severed was whole again, and the soldier, still in shock, watched in disbelief as his wound vanished before his eyes. Peter slowly lowered the sword, his heart still racing, but the tension remained in the air. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words, with the weight of what was about to come. The soldiers, now motionless, had their eyes fixed on Jesus, waiting for his next move. I knew they felt the way we did. Even in the situation, he healed. He forgave. And he loved. I could see the sorrow in his eyes as he prepared to face what we all feared, knowing the full weight of what would happen next. I stood frozen, the weight of the moment sinking in, as soldiers began to surround us. My mind could barely grasp the reality of what was happening. We had walked with him, seen miracles, heard his teachings, and now, in the dead of night, he was about to be taken. He had warned us. So many times he had spoken of this moment, yet we had not understood. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. But how could this be? He was the one who had calmed storms, who had spoken with the authority of heaven itself. How could he be taken like this? And then it happened. I watched in horror as the soldiers seized him, hands gripping his arms as they pulled him away. The man who had healed the sick, who had raised the dead, who had brought light into the world, now bound like a criminal, ready to face the weight of the world's cruelty. He did not resist. He did not fight. I could hear his words echoing in my mind. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. I wanted to scream, to stop them, to plead for mercy, but I knew this was the hour he had spoken of. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Tears burned my eyes as I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. He had told us he would lay down his life. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord, and yet it still felt unbearable to watch. I thought of his words, his love, his purpose. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. And now he was walking toward death, willingly. I tried to follow, but fear paralyzed me. My legs refused to move as I watched the man I loved, the man I had followed and trusted, being led away. My heart shattered with each step they took, knowing that we were on the cusp of losing everything. I watched in horror as they dragged him away, bound and beaten. My heart shattered as they spat on him, mocked him, and tore his flesh with whips. I followed, unseen in the crowd, as they placed a crown of thorns upon his head. And then the cross. I watched him struggle with a heavy wooden cross to carry it to Golgotha, the place they were to crucify him. When he was crucified, I stood at the foot of the cross, unable to look away. Though my soul screamed in agony, I would not leave him. The only one who had given me life and hope when the world rejected me now hung between thieves. The sky darkened. The earth trembled. Creation itself mourned. Yet even in death I could not leave him. At the break of dawn, the world was hushed in mourning. The sky, still painted in the soft hues of twilight, seemed to weep with me as I made my way to his tomb. My hands clutched the jar of spices, trembling with each step, my heart a heavy stone within my chest. The scent of myrrh and aloes drifted into the morning air, but no fragrance could mask the bitterness of my grief. Every footstep felt like walking through water, heavy, slow, drained of purpose. He was gone. The one who had called me by name, who had freed me from darkness, who had given me hope when the world rejected me was gone. Now all that remained was duty. The duty to honor him in death as I had followed him in life. But then something was wrong. The tomb. The stone moved. My breath hitched. My pulse roared in my ears. The entrance yawned open like an unanswered question. Had someone taken him? Had they not done enough to him already? Frantic, I stumbled forward, peering into the darkness of the grave. This couldn't be. My hands clutched at the rough stone for support as my knees threatened to buckle. Where was he? Where had they taken my Lord? I stepped inside, trembling, and saw them. 2 figures in white, seated where his body had been. "Why do you weep?" one of them asked. "Why do I weep? My Lord was gone. My hope was buried with him." Tears blurred my sight as I turned away, stepping back into the garden. My heart pounded as I saw a man standing there. The gardener, I thought. "Sir, if you have taken him, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away," I pleaded. Then one word. "Mary." The way he called me that day when he set me free from the demons. I knew that voice. I would have known it even in the depths of my sorrow. I turned, and there he was. Alive. Radiant. Glorious. The morning sun caught the hem of his robe, golden light weaving through his presence like fire through the dawn. His eyes. Oh, those eyes, filled with knowing, filled with love, filled with life itself. My heart raced, disbelief warring with joy. My lips parted, but no words came. It was him. It was really him. "Rabboni," I managed to say. Tears spilled freely down my cheeks as I fell at his feet, my sobs shaking my frame. I reached for him, for any proof that this moment was real. My fingers longed to grasp his hands, to hold on to him and never let go. But he gently spoke again. His voice steady, filled with purpose. "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go. Go and tell my brothers." Oh. The command echoed in my soul. Go and tell. It was not men, not the scholars, not the rulers. It was me. He had chosen me, a woman once bound by darkness, to be the first to proclaim the greatest truth the world would ever hear. So I was the first witness of the risen Lord. It was not Peter, not John. It was me, Mary Magdalene, the woman redeemed from evil spirits. And so I ran. My sorrow turned to fire in my veins. My fear melted away in the light of his resurrection. I was not a mistress. I was not a fallen woman. I was a disciple, a witness, a woman redeemed by grace. My voice still echoes through time, calling out to those who are lost, those bound in darkness like I was. There is hope. There is freedom. There is a love greater than all the pain you have known. Seek him and you will find him. Call upon him and he will answer. For he is not dead, he lives. And if you listen closely, you may just hear him calling your name, just as he called mine. Stay in faith, for the one who conquered death is with us still. Let his love transform your heart, your mind, and your soul. As we wait in expectation for his return, may we live in the hope he offers to all who believe, looking forward to the day when he will come again, not as a servant, but as our King. Until that day we walk by faith, empowered by his resurrection, knowing that he is alive and he will return. Yes, he will. Thank you for watching this testimony of faith and redemption. If this message spoke to your heart, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful first-person testimonies from history and scripture. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Until next time, stay blessed and walk in faith.